In their first season as organizations, these two Texas squads had two completely different storylines. On one side, a super team completing the ultimate goal of bringing home a title, and then on the other side, a team that played well down the stretch but missed the playoffs by the slimmest of point differentials. And these two teams clash once again this afternoon back at the same field in which both of these organizations made their debut. It's the Austin Soul and the Dallas Roughnecks, presented by Game On Sports. Welcome up to the booth. I'm Kyle Yeomans alongside Emmy Fitzgerald, and we'll join Paige Norbach shortly. But right now, almost ready to get going again, as these two teams are just about ready to get this rivalry rekindled and ready to go once again, and a different look for the Roughnecks this season.
It is, but they still have 20 returning players from their championship roster, including Jimmy Mickle and Dylan Freechild. And the first poll is now underway.
And we are underway here in AUDL season numero 6. And the number 2 one for both of these organizations. The Roughnecks, of course, the defending AUDL champions. 17-0, perfect season from a year ago. And they're returning some of their top players from that squad as well, Emmy.
Yes, and Dallas starting out on offense today with Dylan Freechild with the disc. Even though they've only had 2 mini camps and a few practices so far, this is still, they're still moving it down the field pretty aggressively.
Very efficient so far. The Roughnecks have been able to get off to a quick start out of the opening pool. And Mazer has it right on the goal line, looking for someone to get open in the end zone. Mickle trying to make a break. And Mazer's going to dump it right back off to Mechanix. Mechanix to Freechild, and that's going to find an open Kai Actually, that's Ben Laurie. I take it back, in the end zone for the first Roughnecks goal of the 2017 campaign.
And Ben Laurie had 220 completions in the 2016 season, and you could just see that quick movement of the disc. I don't think any Roughnecks player held it for maybe more than 4 counts, even with those double teams, using both sides of the field, getting that backhand break for the score.
And with players like Jimmy Mickle and Dylan Freechild returning for the Roughnecks, it's not a surprise that that league-leading offensive output already out to a quick start this afternoon.
Definitely so, and Chris Mazer was also a Worlds player last summer, and he was only with the Roughnecks for the second half of the season. He didn't move to Dallas until June or so. He's O-line handler, clearly already made a difference in that first point.
So Bennett the one to get that pull underway. So the Soul now on their first offensive possession of the 2017 season.
Ben Lewis, number 25, new player on the Roughnecks this year, first down on the pull.
And there's already a D coming across, and making the play is Zach Riggins. Of course, Zach wore the number 15 last season, and he's at number 21 this season. So the Roughnecks off to a quick start. This one trying to find it, actually completing it across the field pass to Dalton Smith. Smith left his feet, and a whistle.
Travel called on the play.
It was a travel called. Smith will take it right to the goal line, and a chance here with the stack set to try and convert and make it a 2-goal advantage as he'll dump it to Bennett. Bennett looking for a route. Instead, he'll dump it back off to Emmons. Emmons in trying to thread the needle and find Zach Riggins, unable to do so, so a quick incompletion, the first of the afternoon from the Roughnecks.
And Dan Emmons with that inside-out break, that is a tough completion to make in the end zone, especially in these windy conditions. It just really, the disc will really carry pretty far. So, but now, the benefit of that, the Soul have to work it up the entire field.
We've spent a lot of time so far talking about the about the Dallas Roughnecks. How about the Austin Soul, a team that played extremely well down the stretch last season, finished up 7-7 overall, and like we said in the open, as that disc is just going to be dropped, we're going to give it right back to Bennett, and he will continue on for Austin. And kind of continuing what I was saying, this is a team that has the ability to put up points, 6th in the entire AUDL last year in points scored per game, but their defense a little spotty at times, really hit or miss for the Soul.
It's really tough for really any team to have their one-on-one matchups with the Roughnecks, but in talking to some of the Soul players, they realized last year they didn't come out in quite the physical shape that they were hoping for, because the top Dallas the top Dallas players have been training for Team USA tryouts. So this year, they worked harder to go to the track, do agility drills, and hopefully those one-on-one matchups will be better for them.
And Ethan Pollock had Caleb Danacore all the way down the field trying to complete it to the goals leader from last year and just couldn't do so. Danacore went up over one of the Roughneck defenders and couldn't pull it down. So a turnover on that end of the field, and then just like that, the Roughnecks give it back to the Soul on the other end.
And that's what we'll see, especially early in the game with these windy conditions. And it's the first game. A lot of teams are still, both teams are still trying to figure out some of the chemistry issues, how the disc flies.
You got to kind of find a rhythm.
Exactly, the speed of your various players. And the AUDL game is different from the college or club game. The stall count is shorter, the field is a lot larger, so that just takes a little bit to get back into.
Looked like Bennett may have gotten a fingertip on that disc. Couldn't do so. Pollock misses it initially, and then making the D on the other end is the Danimal Dan Emmons, the blocks leader from a year ago, not wasting any time, getting going one more time.
You know that's a high disc when 6'6" Ethan Pollock can't reach it.
Pollock, one of the more vertically blessed players in the entire AUDL, and you'll see him lay out a couple of times. Bennett with it. Dump it back off to Thomas Slack. Slack came on in the middle of the season for the Roughnecks a year ago and really made an instant impact. Here's Zach Riggins. So give it right back to Bennett. Bennett with the scuba over to Slack. And Dallas continuing to be efficient on the offensive attack.
And right now, they're really working the disc between 3 A&M teammates, Thomas Slack, Matt Bennett, and Dalton Smith.
Big Aggies, right?
Exactly. Oh, that scuba over the top.
You'll see that all day long and a beautiful feed, finding Ben Lewis in the end zone to make it 3-0, or actually 2-0 in favor of the Roughnecks. Forgot about that one goal that didn't actually happen. So it is 2-0 in favor of Dallas with 6:59 remaining in the first quarter.
And I think it was 4 consecutive Aggies who touched the disc in a row, from Thomas Slack to Matt Bennett to Dalton Smith to Ben Lewis. And that was one thing that Roughnecks coach Patrick Eberle was talking about before the game. Even though it seems like their roster is kind of spread out and there are a lot of different people, there are a lot of common threads between who went to college together, who lives in Colorado right now, who played on a club team together, and they're really trying to take advantage of those cliques, if you want to call them that. So there's that built-in chemistry already, while a full roster is trying to just get to know each other.
You not only see that on teams like the Roughnecks, you see that on teams like the Soul as well. A lot of players that play in similar club teams, similar college teams, and things like that that can bring that kind of chemistry over into the AUDL, and that's what makes this extremely interesting to watch in terms of a chemistry and strategy standpoint. As that's a block from Matt Jackson, as he got a hand on that initial throw. Climbing the ladder to grab that one is Casey Hogg. Hogg didn't have a whole lot of playing time last season, but is seeing some significant minutes early in this one. One of the players that can absolutely run off of the screen, and I know you have a lot of knowledge of Casey Hogg and what he can do on an Ultimate field.
Yes, a lot of these players being so ingrained in the Dallas Ultimate community get to really have a chance to play with them. Even Austin as well. That's just what's so amazing about this sport. And another disc flying out the back of the end zone. And I think both turnovers that were caused the Soul to get the disc and then also to turn it over, both factors of the wind.
Yeah, it looks like the Soul just unable to connect on easy passes that they usually are able to connect on. That one trying to find Mashi Bierschik and couldn't convert. This one in the middle of the field looking for Jay Frood. Another addition from the Roughnecks. Frood coming over from the Madison Radicals and making an immediate impact.
Jason Holleran just dishing it over to Dylan Freechild. He was a Soul player last year, has played on Austin Double Wide with several of the Soul players.
About to say, Double Wide very well represented in this matchup today. Here's Jackson looking in zone, and he's going to be met quickly by that Austin Soul defense. Rory Orloff with the D inside the Roughnecks end zone. So just over 5 minutes left here in the first quarter. low scoring relatively between two high-powered offenses from a year ago. Here's a long completion as that one snagged out of the air by Chase Cunningham, and he's going to look just instantly looking for Michael Hayes, and there's the Soul's first goal of the 2017 season.
There was a little bit of a height mismatch there between Chase Cunningham and Abe Coffin, and so Rory Orloff recognized that immediately, puts up a big huck. Chase is really tall in the air anyway, and the Soul are able to get their first goal of the game.
So it is 2-1 in favor of the Roughnecks as the Soul cut the lead in half. Now 4:54 left in the first, after Michael Hayes ran just a straight seam down the field and snagged that one for the Austin Soul. So both of these teams very well versed with each other, met 4 times last year, of course, in the season opener back a year ago tomorrow, actually, on April 2nd of 2016. And that was where the Roughnecks took down the Soul 30-18. But after that, it only got better from there, from the Soul. And then eventually the last game of the regular season for both squads, the Soul, or actually not for both squads, but between these two squads, back on the 2nd of July, ended up in a 4-point advantage for the Roughnecks. So every game they saw that lead shrink.
And now an offsides call on the pole, which is why the Roughnecks are taking it here from half field. Huge advantage for the Dallas offense.
Look at Mickle trying to find slack, and he does. What a beautiful huck from Jimmy Mickle. And that's going to make it 3-1 in favor of the Roughnecks, and that's what's going to happen if you can leave and make some different mistakes. Whenever you're on defense and the Roughnecks take advantage of it, that's where they really have their bread and butter, is being able to work from midfield forward on their attacking end of the field.
And that's Dallas's signature activation play that I think they probably would have run regardless if they had started at half field or not. But those are the types of errors that the Soul really can't afford to make, because that was almost a gimme goal. You put the disc in the hands of Jimmy Mickle, you have Thomas Slack cutting to the back cone. They're good things that usually happen when that combo is in place.
A little bit of rain starting to fall here at the Colony Sports Complex. There's some little scattered showers here as there's just under 5 minutes remaining here in the first quarter. The Soul with possession. A chance here to try and cut down that Roughnecks advantage. Pollock has it on the near sideline. They're going to dump it right back off to Loscorn, and Loscorn will press forward to Starkle. Starkle looking for Pollock, who's wide open in the back of the end zone to make it 3-2. So every time the Roughnecks have tried to open up a 2+2 goal lead, as well as maybe add on to that eventually, the Soul answered back pretty quickly here, and now they're back within one more time.
And the Soul had really great continuation cuts off of their activation there, and so just moved very methodically one to the next and was able to find Ethan Pollock cutting back to the end zone. If they're able to do that, that's very efficient offense. The problem is if there are any turnovers, the Dallas D-line is just so scary that you might not get another opportunity to get the disc back, especially as the game progresses and a lot of the first quarter turnovers and jitters get out of the way.
That's exactly right. Both of these teams still trying to feel each other out a little bit here. The Roughnecks got off to a quick start and have been efficient from the very opening pool. And then on the other side, you have the Austin Soul, who kind of struggled early on, but have found their rhythm in the last couple of possessions. And the Roughnecks not wasting any time in a travel call. And Roughnecks will take a couple steps backwards and start from just past the midfield.
A new rule this year as well, a travel is no longer a turnover. It's a lossage of yardage. Now, it was an incomplete pass anyway, so it was a turnover, but little changes
Purcell able to make the reception on the near sideline, and a throw a little bit air there, but it's a sliding grab. Coming across and making the play was Andrew Walsh.
Hi, Marshall with the big bid, loses his shorts there for a minute, but gets back on the mark, thank goodness.
How was that? How about Kai Marshall pulling up the shorts immediately? You can see a smile on Jimmy Mickle's face, even in the midst of a play. So the Soul threatening here, potentially to tie things up, and they're going to find A wide open, not anymore.
The Stanley Peterson special.
Wow, how
the
about
grab out
Peterson
of the air.
coming out of nowhere to snag that one, climbed the ladder, and not only made the D, but got the interception as well. Here's Mickle going long, looking for Slack. Slack is gonna get up, and it's gonna be rejected by Carson Wilder.
Carson Wilder gained some steps on Thomas Slack to really be able to get that block there. Those two have been teammates in the past on club teams as well, and could see them kind of congratulating. Thomas was congratulating him on it.
That's a costly turnover for Austin on the near sideline, so Freechild's gonna, actually that's not Freechild, I'll take that back. That's Chris Mazer. He's looking for a dump off, he'll find Malachek. Malachek over and finding his Roughneck teammate. Here's Mazer in the end zone. That one's snagged by Slack.
So ended up being an efficient red zone stand there for the Roughnecks, but the Soul Gate kind of gave the Roughnecks that field position, but that's one reason why Jimmy Mickle would put up such a big huck right off the bat, because then even if that huck isn't completed, the disc is all the way down on the other side of the field, opposite, they're closer to their own end zone, so if there is a turnover, they're in much better field position to be able to convert.
They were able to convert there very efficiently once again. The Roughnecks, I feel like they've made their mainstay around that word being efficient, being very methodical on offense, but also not taking a whole lot of time, getting things done very quickly.
So, newcomer Abe Coffin with the big pull, stays in bounds.
Coffin also coming over from the Madison Radicals. Anytime you're able to add a couple of key players from a AUDL championship weekend caliber team, it's always going to add a little bit of depth and talent to your rosters. There's a collision.
You could tell Jason Holleran knew as soon as he did it. Yep, that's a foul. That's a foul.
Holleran also a newcomer on this Roughnecks team. Here's a long puck looking in the end zone. That one's rejected by Jay Frood.
And Jeff Losgren is a very powerful player, but he is being guarded by Jay Frood, and then Abe Coffin was right behind him too. So, I could see why they would throw it, but it is very, very covered there.
Jackson back in his own end zone, finds Hogg. Hogg guarded closely by Schaefer.
But the Soul are hoping for a turnover before the Roughnecks can get it out of this area, which with Jimmy Mickle in power position, there it goes.
Here's Mickle looking for Frood down the sideline. The diving bid comes up just a bit short right at the goal line. Frood seems to be a little shaken up on the play. One of the first diving bids we've seen in the game thus far. With 1:03 remaining in the first quarter, a chance there for the Roughnecks to go up by 3. And instead, it's a turnover. That was just a good throw from Mickle that was just a couple of inches outside of Frood's reach.
That is a tough throw to make, though. It's the same third huck, and especially with this wind, it's just a lot harder to judge the speed of it. Jay Frood made a very valiant attempt, but ended up taking an injury from it. He kind of hit the ground hard.
Frood is working his way off.
So I think Paige Snorbach has something for us down on the sideline. Paige, what you got?
Thanks, Emmy. We're used to seeing last year's Roughnecks, which had a dominating set of players. This team looks a little bit different, and you can sense their frustration as they're getting used to playing all together because, as we remember, last year this team was used to jumping out, scoring big, scoring fast. This game is a little bit more competitive, but they're already, you can tell on the sidelines, gelling and making it work together.
Thanks, Paige, and that's exactly right. The chemistry is a big proponent for both of these squads, especially in the first game of the season. This long huck is going to be completed.
Great grab from Paul Starkle.
Just outside the goal line. Starkle being double-teamed very quickly. He's going to dump it right back off to Jason Best, and Best will convert on the assist, and the Soul answered back once again
whenever they're down by 2, they don't go away easily, bringing it back within 1, 4-3 now the score with 36.5 seconds remaining in the first.
Paul Starkle had great closing speed on that huck. It was out of his reach, but he timed his layout really, really well, had that grab, really great grab. They called it trailing disc, a trailing edge grab there. And then he had teammates trailing him, so he was able to get the dump off right away. There's Jason Best, Caleb Denacor recognizing, and they get a score.
Denacor, the goals leader from a year ago, getting his first notch in that stat column so far this season. So just a couple seconds left on the clock here in the first quarter, but if we've learned anything from calling Dallas Roughneck games, 36 seconds is an eternity while on the attack. Alechek with it quickly. And we apologize for some of the technical difficulties that we have been having. The rain kind of throwing a wrench into things, and that is why we don't have a clock. So 19 seconds left, and a diving D from Wilder able to knock that one away. And a fumble pass with 12 seconds left on the clock. It's going to be picked up by Laurie. Laurie's going to be contacted quickly, but there's 8 seconds remaining here in the first period. So a lot of action back and forth as Laurie's going to throw it over the top and finding Freechild for the first disc spike of the season, and the Dallas Roughnecks open up a 2-goal advantage.
The Spikezilla strikes again. So already in this first quarter, we've seen a Matt Bennett scuba, check mark. We've seen Stanley Peterson climb the ladder, check mark. We've seen Jimmy Mickle huck, check mark. And now we've seen Dylan Freechild spike the disc. I think we are off to a really, really exciting start in this game. And Dallas is up, but it's a 2-point margin. The Austin Soul are keeping it very close.
And that's kind of what I've been saying throughout. This Austin Soul team is maybe not talent-wise even with some of the players on the Roughnecks roster. Now, some can argue that as well, but at the same time, there's so much will on this Austin Soul sideline, which we are actually a part of currently in the booth, but at the same time, they never go away completely, and they will stick into a game until the very end. And the Roughnecks have done a lot of things right so far, but the Soul sticking with it. So 6.5 seconds left, so one potential large huck.
And the Austin Soul do have a lot of experienced, talented players.
Here's this buzzer-beating huck, and it's going to dive in the bid.
Comes up just short from Carson Wilder, and the buzzer beater is no good. So after one, the Roughnecks have that 2-goal advantage. Sorry to cut you off there, Emmy. What were you saying?
I was just about to be in complete shock and bewilderment if Carson Wilder caught that disc. But to the point of Austin Soul kind of remaining with this only 2-point deficit after the end of the first quarter is they have a lot of very experienced players. They have players who have played college for a long time, club for a long time. They were veterans even though the Soul was in its infancy last year.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Emmy. And the Roughnecks entering into the second quarter up by 2. We'll be back with more here on AUDL's coverage of Dallas Roughnecks Ultimate Disc, here presented by Game On Sports. Welcome back to the 5-Star Sports Complex here in the Colony, where the Dallas Roughnecks have opened up a 2-goal advantage over the Austin Soul in a rematch between these Texas rivals, opening up the season for the second year in a row. Both of them in their second year of existence, and right now the Soul are trailing by 2 to the Dallas Roughnecks, who have gotten off to a quick start.
And it looked like at the first half or so of the first quarter, Dallas goes up kind of quickly, and that would have been a moment where the Soul would get dejected, but they really kept their composure. They're really spread out on the sidelines, cheering on their teammates, and have kept it close. So now the onus is really on Dallas, who will start on defense to begin the second quarter, to right now force a turnover and convert right away to kind of build that lead and that momentum.
The first pull of the second quarter goes over the top of us, all the way out of the sideline and then back into play from Matt Bennett to get things started here in the second quarter of action. Once again, thank you for joining us. Kyle Yeomans alongside Emmy Fitzgerald. We have Paige Schnorbach, our third member of our crew, down on the sideline.
And Dallas was running some kind of help defense to really start off around the end zone there and kind of shifted back then into their man-on-man coverage.
Here's Loscorn throwing one up. 3 Roughnecks on 1, and a big push there from Bennett, as it looks like Danicourt tried to climb the ladder over the top of all 3 Dallas Roughneck defenders, and instead Bennett called for the push.
With Danicourt being triple covered, I think he tried to go up early, hoping that he could get that snag. Ended up being fouled anyway, gets the disc.
Danicourt with a chance, and the Soul with the conversion. Here's Pollock grabbing the 4th Soul goal of the game. So once again, back within 1, 5-4, back and forth trading goals here between the Roughnecks and the Soul.
And Jeff Loscorn taking advantage of that break side, breaking his mark there to find Ethan Pollock in the end zone. Those types of kind of ultimate one-on-one, holding the mark, not getting broken, you're very, very crucial, especially when you're in the red zone.
You're exactly right. So almost a minute into the second quarter, and the Soul were able to take advantage of their first offensive possession. And on the attack, able to add one to trim the lead in half, as it is now only a 1-goal advantage for the Roughnecks. And once again, the Roughnecks haven't really done anything wrong throughout the first couple periods of this one. They just have been matched throw for throw, it seems like, with the Soul.
And I think the D-line really has the onus on them to force turnovers, and on that last point especially, Austin was just very efficient.
Lucky Masola tried to dive out and make a D on Dylan Freechild, just a couple inches short, and the Roughnecks continue on the attack. A whistle on the far side. It's going to be on
called.
It's going to be on Jake Reinhardt, and so the Roughnecks will advance. Far side, Roughnecks nursing the 1-goal advantage. Here's Jimmy Mickle back to Malachek. Malachek will send it to Laurie. Laurie had maybe a couple extra steps to take. Instead, he will convert it to Stanley Peterson. So Peterson with his 2nd goal of the game. And the Roughnecks grow their advantage one more time.
And it looked like the natural progression would be that around break to Chris Mazer. And so you could see the defenders even shift their position a little bit to cut that off. Ben Laurie, recognizing that, throws a little bit of a fake and then finds Stanley Peterson in the back of the end zone. Really great when you can have 2 options for a thrower. So even if that natural around is taken, there's another option there.
The Roughnecks continuing this back and forth battle between the Soul and the Roughnecks. And by back and forth, I don't mean lead changes or ties or anything, just 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goal, 1 goal advantage for the Roughnecks. They've stayed ahead from the very opening pool, but ever since their 2 goals to start the game, it has been trading back and forth between these 2 Texas rivals.
Definitely keeping it interesting and makes it more fun to watch when it's contested. This is a great matchup with Jeff Loscorn with Jay Frood guarding him.
Yeah, it's going to be a matchup that we're going to keep an eye on throughout the rest of this one, as there's a diving bid and then a poor throw. As it looks like the Soul were just looking at the hands, looking at what did I do wrong?
I think Caleb Denneker really saw where Paul Starkle was going, but then his throwing mechanics didn't quite catch up to it.
How did Bennett complete that pass to Abe Coffin, really threading the needle with a defender right on him? This throw just outside the goal line completed to Peterson, and then Peterson finds Jackson for numero 7 on the afternoon. It is 7-4, the Roughnecks with their biggest lead of the night.
And that's really what the Soul have to avoid. Dallas, you can see all of the bids they're doing, looking for layout bids, but when there's a throwaway, it's just kind of, not asking for that turn, but you probably won't get the disc back, especially if you're on then past half field. Dallas just being super efficient. I mean, there was a lot of traffic and clogging going on, but they were patient to find the open person, using that break side and making the completion.
Yeah, the Roughnecks from a year ago averaging 28.8 goals per game, first in the AUDL, and a lot of that reason was because of the second best goals allowed per game average that the Roughnecks were able to put up. Every time you can get a stop on defense, it only helps your offense out, especially, like you said, if it's on their side of midfield.
Rory Orloff and Ryan Purcell played a lot of Frisbee together, so that's a really strong handler set in the backfield.
Those two played a lot for the Soul last year as well. One of the main reasons why they were able to play well down the stretch of the 2016 season with the AUDL.
The Soul working the whole field.
And a beautiful throw, finding Michael Mathis in the end zone. And once again, Ryan Purcell, the Soul's assist leader from a season ago, finding a beautiful, and what a cut from Mathis to get open in the back of the end zone and take advantage of that play to make it 7-5.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what Dallas is forcing on defense right now. Sometimes when you see all the, moving horizontally across the field, it's because there's more of a straight up mark that way, and that's intentional. But then typically it's not also then allowing those deep shots downfield. But Dallas defense really needs to clog a little bit of those throwing lanes because the Soul are just kind of moving it where they want right now. But so is the Dallas O-line.
I was about
They're
to say,
moving it where they want to.
The Dallas O-line has had no real kind of competition in terms of getting or being efficient on the offensive attack. Here's Mickle. And Mickles looking for a streaking Freechild in the back of the end zone with the pancake grab. And he's going to spike it up to one of our cameramen on the far side, giving him a little souvenir.
Left a little present there. Thanks, Dylan.
So Mickle to Freechild, that's going to be a combination that I feel like I'm going to talk about all season long with this Roughnecks roster.
And when you're a younger player and your coaches or your captains are really talking about timing your cuts, that was a perfect example of timing your cut. Jimmy catches it, and as soon as Jimmy catches it, he's faking, he's planting to throw that flick huck. Dylan is already making his cut to where the disc is going to be. And that's really that key to success, coming from a different third of the field, ending up where that disc is. That is textbook for you young players out there trying to improve your game. No surprise, but look at that.
And also the awareness from Mickle to be able to look downfield and know where Freechild's going to be. It's just a whole real puzzle piece put together that has been a real treat to watch for Roughnecks fans over the past 2 seasons.
And that's definitely an initiation set that Dallas has, in place, but you still have to execute it, and your timing is just crucial in that.
So Best on the near sideline for a dump off, and he will find Bennett. Bennett guarded closely by Hogg, as he will find Pollock. Pollock in the middle of the field trying to find, and does find Paul Starkle. Starkle to Danicourt. The Soul being very methodical on the offensive end, and a wide open Mitchell Bennett in the end zone.
able to sneak away from the Roughnecks defense there, kind of slipped through the cracks, and the cut at the end got him wide open for the goal.
And that was a tough throw that Paul Starkle made with that blady OI flick there. So that is a higher difficulty, lower percentage completion throw. So the Dallas defense was taking a risk by pushing in a little bit closer to the goal line there. Mitch Bennett really recognizing the positioning, pulls further back in towards the other side of the end zone. Paul Starkle finds him for the score.
Once again, back and forth, trading goals between these two rivals. 8-6 now the score, 8:01 remaining in the second quarter.
And we just want to shout out everybody that's tuning in on Facebook. I know we're trying something a little bit different. I can see your comments. There's a little bit of a delay, but if there are questions and we have some pausing in the action, can try and answer your questions or read some comments on air.
Awesome to see 900 viewers on the Facebook Live as Mickle is not going to be able to grab that one. There's another long huck trying to find Mickle streaking downfield, and so a turnover here, and here's a chance for the Soul to get back within one after being down 2 and 3 for the remainder, or for the majority of the second quarter, a chance to get back within one.
This is a very crucial offensive possession for Austin. Not that should be a surprise to anyone, obviously.
Every possession is crucial.
It is, especially when you're playing against Dallas.
Here's Hayes trying to go up. He had the disc, but Freechild was there for the defense. Looked like a little bit of a collision between the two of them. Hayes able to climb the ladder, got a hand on it.
It almost seems like he was a little surprised that his hand made contact. I know that's happened to me before, and then your instinct just releases. Great verticals.
I was about to say, I know I was impressed with the vertical from Hayes, as this one's being hucked downfield looking for Peterson. Peterson initially can't grab it, and then the bid comes up just a bit short. Another no call with the collision. And it looks like actually it was going to be a call. It's going to be a push on Michael Mathis.
It's a little surprising for Kai Marshall to be throwing hucks, but Stanley Peterson certainly had steps on Mathis, as did Jimmy Mickle when he threw that huck earlier.
It wasn't a bad huck. Got it to Peterson at least. Now there was the contact, and there was a defender.
It was very difficult to catch, and it hung enough, and that's the difficulty with hucks. You may have the distance, but if that disc hangs in the air, it gives time for a defender to get back.
That's exactly right, as this was dumped off to Malachek just about 10 yards out from the goal line. Peterson with it. Finds Mickle. Mickle about 3 yards out in the back of the end zone. Is going to find Freechild. Freechild now with 3 on the night.
That one may have been the most impressive, being able to cut in front of a defender, make the grab, and then, of course, the traditional Freechild spike at the end.
He spiked a little close to Carson Wilder, in my opinion, but what I think was impressive, too, is that Jimmy Mickle is throwing that scoober for the score, and Freechild is in stride and then comes and can catch that scoober mid-air. That's very difficult because the path of scoobers and hammers are different from discs that are thrown right side up rather than upside down. And you could tell that Dylan was especially excited about catching it that way.
When is Dylan Freechild not excited about catching a disc in the end zone?
That is true.
At the same time, the Oregon Duck able to make the reception from Mickle and make it a 9-6 advantage in the Roughnecks. And their biggest lead of the night is 3.
Chris Mazer, in addition to the D line here, you'll notice there are 3 lines, and each line typically will have 7 people each. But each team can only roster 20 people per game. So you have an O-line and you have 2 D-lines. And so for that second D-line that has 6 people, they'll rotate different O-line players onto that D-line, which is why you see Chris Mazer there right now.
5.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Very tightly contested match thus far. Here's Pollock. Pollock tossing to Danicourt in the end zone, and Danicourt can't handle it. A rare drop by the goal leader from a year ago. The Soul can't convert And you don't see that a whole lot in the AUDL, especially from a player with the skill that Caleb Denicourt possesses.
It happens. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And the best thing Caleb can do is forget it and just play hard defense.
While the Roughnecks are far into their defensive end zone, let's go down to Paige Schnorbach on the sideline. Paige, what you got for us?
Kyle, I'm here with a longtime Roughnecks fan, and he's actually been a fan of the game for quite some time. Can you tell me how many years you have enjoyed watching Ultimate Disc?
Since 2008.
What first got you into it?
You know, I was in high school, somebody started a club, and I was hooked immediately.
And what's your favorite part about this Roughnecks team?
That's an easy question. My favorite part is definitely Reed Bacon. He's a great player, great guy. I just wanted to make a plug. He's going to be doing an interview later. He's doing an interview series of women in Ultimate. I recommend everybody check it out. Tyler Wacker will be filming, so I wanted to make a plug for that.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Kyle and Emmy.
Thanks, Paige. And a couple turnovers for each squad. The Soul have possession with about 3:45 left on the clock. It looks like a timeout was called from Austin. And the clock continued to run for just a little bit, but 3:42 officially on the clock here left in the first half. And it's been back and forth between these two squads, and the Roughnecks have that 3-goal advantage. What have you been seeing from this Dallas squad, Emmy, that has really impressed you in the first couple quarters of this one?
I think when their timing is on, they're unstoppable. They're really unstoppable. It's amazing. And you can see that, for the most part, pretty great at throwing in the wind. It has been a little bit of a factor there, but I don't think that Dallas is satisfied with how their play is right now. But it's still the beginning of the season. It's a lot of chemistry that they're working on, but very aggressive every time the disc goes up. And Reed Bacon, just the interview subject was just talking about Mr. Bacon. He is on the mark as the disc is about to come in from the timeout. So everybody loves Bacon.
As if it were on cue. I mean, why not?
Everybody loves Bacon.
So Bacon on mark as Jason Best is going to bring this one back into play for the Soul after the timeout. 3:42 remaining in the second quarter. The Soul down by 3. Chance here to shrink that deficit. The Soul, who were ranked 6th in the AUDL a year ago in terms of putting up goals per game. 25.5 a game for Austin. Struggling here to really get any kind of rhythm going. You saw some in the first quarter, just unable to really get anything going here in the second. But here's something cooking for the Soul as they're working it around the perimeter, trying to find any kind of open cut.
And it looked like at first Dallas was forcing no straight up. And then they kind of moved to a forced flick, but that was, if they were, I need to figure out what force they're doing here, but because that was the front cone of the forced flick side giving up a goal, which is really surprising. And a lot of times on that forced straight up, you deny then the unders because the underthrow is a lot easier to make because you're taking away that hug. So it's early in the season. Dallas still has a lead. You can tell that they're really trying to work out some of these defensive sets, maybe some of this help D that they're trying to do just to see what works the best.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Doug Richardson was the sole player that got open for the goal. And what awareness from Richardson to be able to keep a foot in bounds and still make the reception to make it 9-7 with 3 minutes remaining in the first half. Mazer with it now. The Roughnecks back on offense. As Mickle will grab the reception. Thought about looking at Ben Laurie deep. Instead, he'll dump it back off to Mazer. Mazer to Mickle, back to Mazer. Far sideline is where the Roughnecks are working. Here's a diving bid and a diving catch from Mickle just outside the goal line. See if he can convert on the other end. He'll dump it to Malachek as they'll work it to Freechild. And Freechild hit with a potential stall, and instead he's going to get it to Kai Marshall. to make it 10-7. The Roughnecks are in double digits.
The Sky captain, Kai Marshall, and with that downwind, that downwind positioning there, Dylan Freechild can throw that high release backhand, especially because your receiver is as tall as Kai Marshall. Thankfully, Marshall was making a great cut, anticipating, giving options to Freechild, so he doesn't just have that handler dump there, and is able to make that Sky.
Kai Marshall with the grab out of thin air, it seems like, as he goes sky high once more, and the OU Sooner makes it 10-7.
Some questions that we have on Facebook Live here. The travel rule is a 10-yard penalty rather than just a call and then the count restarts. Brody Smith is not on the Dallas Roughnecks. He is on the Jacksonville Cannons this year. We wish him all the best. And we also have these amazing Navy jerseys.
Yeah, look at the new Navy jerseys. There's a nice D and a push called on the Roughnecks. And kind of going back to what you were saying, I love the Navy jerseys with the white shorts. I think they look extremely clean for the Roughnecks look this season. I'm gonna have to get us one of those so we can maybe wear those on our broadcast next week, and we'll see where that goes. I don't know how far I'll get with that, but that one knocked away. It's gonna hit the ground in a diving bid. Unable to come up with the reception. And the Soul turn it back over to the Roughnecks with 1:32 left on the clock.
Dallas really working to get it off the sideline, using the full field. It's a large field here. Mitch Bennett mixing things up.
Bennett able to come across, get that right hand on the disc, and sees it hit the ground. So Loscorn will pick it up for the Soul. And a chance to shrink this deficit before the halftime break. Here is Danicourt.
Soul working out of their vertical stack, cycling from the back. Zach Riggins trying to poach. Contact call.
Yeah, contact called on Riggins. He came across the front of Pollock and tried to put a hand on the disc. Instead, Pollock will advance, so just about 10 yards out. He's gonna find Bennett. Bennett finding a Soul teammate in the end zone. That is Jeff Loscorn with the reception. That's gonna make it 10-8 with 42 seconds remaining in the first half.
And Mitch Bennett had 21 assists for the Soul in 2016. So very active on the offensive side there. So he almost had bookends. He forced the D and then threw the assist for the score. So
it counts for something,
it's like
right?
One in like 3/4 bookends. That's what we'll give you.
So 42 ticks remaining in the first half. The Roughnecks up by 2, 10-8, as the scoreboard has yet to change. They will get the disc back and a chance to grow their lead. Thank you again for those joining us on Facebook Live and on the live stream here presented by Game On Sports. So this pool is going to hang up high in the air as Malachek's going to let it go out on the sideline.
Lots of hang time. One strategy that sometimes some teams use is to pull it so it has a lot of hang time, but then also go to a sideline so they can trap it on the sideline. But a risk that you run is if it lands out of bounds like this one did, then you get positioning at a brick mark in the middle of the field.
How about the fake from Jimmy Mickle, finding Ben Laurie on the streak coming back in. Laurie's gonna go over the top, looking for an open Freechild. Freechild climbs the ladder and snags that one. He'll dump it to Mickle with 25 seconds remaining. The hammer from Mickle, and then the snag in the end zone. I believe that's Peterson in the end zone. I can't really see from this far out, but nonetheless, the Roughnecks tack on another one with 20 seconds remaining in the second quarter.
Like hammer time right there. We have Ben Laurie with the hammer to Dylan Freechild, and then Jimmy Mickle, the hammer for the score. But sometimes in these windy conditions, those upside down throws, they cut the wind a lot better than if you're throwing a traditional forehand or backhand.
And especially in the wind that these players are having to face in a night like tonight,
it's really a big chance for maybe some corkscrews to happen, some of the hammer throws going a little out of control, but both of those from Laurie and from Mickle, very well placed and efficient once again for the Roughnecks. There's that word again for Dallas as they continue to convert on the offensive end. So 11-8 the score, the Soul with just about 15 seconds to tack on one more before halftime.
It's actually a lot of time for the Soul to convert. Now the crowd errantly chants the score.
Oh, and a buzzer beater with 1.3 seconds on the clock. The crowd tried their best, throwing up random numbers, trying to throw the Soul off balance, but instead, Jason Best gets behind the Roughneck defense for the snag to make it 11-9, bringing the Soul back within 2.
So with 1.3 seconds left, there's not a bunch of time for Dallas to convert, but it'll be really interesting to see what they do. Jimmy Mickle is on the field with Brandon Malachek. So this is the traditional O-line here. I once played in a fun tournament with Chris Mazer, who said, let's play 1 handler and 6 cutters. And everybody just run to the end zone. I could see something like that actually working and being smart in this situation.
So here's the pull. It's gonna land just a couple yards away from midfield. And it's gonna be Mazer with the long buzzer-beating throw, just a massive humanity in the end zone, and it'll be picked off. And that'll do it for the second quarter. 11-9 is the score. The Roughnecks have the advantage as we head into the halftime break. We will be back with a first half wrap-up here for Dallas Roughnecks Ultimate Disc, presented by Game On Sports.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Welcome back to Dallas Roughnecks Ultimate Frisbee, where the Roughnecks have an 11-9 advantage at the halftime break. And Emmy, the first half, the Roughnecks were very efficient. I don't think I could count how many times we used that word up here in the booth, but at the same time, the Soul never just went away. The biggest lead for the Roughnecks, 3 throughout the entire first half, and then at the end, the Roughnecks were able to trim it, or the Soul, excuse me, were able to trim it down to 2 just before the break.
And it has been really interesting to see how the Soul have really kept in the game in this first half. I think Dallas, maybe if I were the coach, I might make a few defensive adjustments there, but at the same time, this is the beginning of the season. They're still working it out. The O-line is taking care of business when they are on the field, and that is what will keep that lead for Dallas. Remember, the Soul can now convert every single time for the rest of the game, but then that means the Soul D-line has to break the Dallas O-line multiple times to be able to tie and take the lead, which is very difficult.
So throughout the first half, back and forth, and really the Soul able to, like you said, kind of fit in with everything that their game plan has wanted to do. I was able to listen to Coach Tang on this Austin Soul sideline, and she said early on, she said, we can only worry about ourselves, our game plan, and going back to the basics. They were talking about really keeping it simple, keeping the fundamentals really strong, and the Soul were really able to do that in the first half.
And it's interesting, I spoke with Captain Chris Mazer earlier today, and he said, today we're going to keep things simple as well. So there might be instances where, like on defense, where it might not look like, okay, this isn't as, you know, flashy as it might have been before, but they're working on their set. They're working on their set. They're also, he's told the team, you're going to face adversity all throughout the season, but you have to be able to overcome it. And when you can be mentally strong, mentally tough, you can get those scores and really convert on those.
And they were able to do so. The Roughnecks with that 11-9 advantage over the Austin Soul at the halftime break. And we're actually going to go down on the sideline right now. Paige Schnorbach, our third member of our crew, is with Steve Gordon, the commissioner of the AUDL. Paige, take it away.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, as you said, I'm here with the commissioner, Steve Gordon. Steve, is this your first chance to see the Roughnecks in person?
In this facility, yeah, I've seen them in person in championship weekend last year and such. But to be able to come down here and see what the whole event is here beyond the Roughnecks itself, but the whole event and the vibrancy of the whole experience is just unbelievable.
And what's your first impression of this new Roughnecks team?
They don't look much different than last year. There's some different faces. They look just as efficient as they were. They're still home run hitters, and they're good at doing it. So I don't see any drop-off at all.
Well, that's good to hear. Now tell me, you're the commissioner of the league. What got you into Ultimate initially?
That's a long story, but bottom line was, or if I make it short, is I was asked to work with the league on a marketing in a marketing role at one point because I own a marketing company. I was introduced to the league. I fell in love with the sport, bought the Chicago team at that point, and then that migrated into becoming the commissioner as well. So been doing that now for 4 years and absolutely love it.
Now, owner of the Roughnecks, Jim Garanser, does a lot of outreach with Eric, and I know you do a lot of stuff with the youth. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's how I met Jim before he became owner here in Dallas, was through his charity. I think what he does is unbelievable, not only with Eric, but just expansively what he does throughout Ultimate. Eric is a focal point beyond, obviously, the team as it relates to youth and the cancer awareness and all that. The things that he's doing, the growth that he's had in that organization, it's been exponential around the country. As you know, the buses out there, the Speak Up Tour, just unbelievable things that he's doing, and we as a league are just so excited to be able to support that.
Well, we thank you for coming out, and we hope you're able to make it again sometime.
I appreciate it, Paige. Thanks so much.
All right, back to y'all up top.
Thanks, Paige and Steve. And just like Steve Gordon was saying, this Roughnecks team doesn't look a whole lot different, but once again, neither do the Austin Soul. Both of these teams playing well in the first half. 11-9 is the score at the halftime break. And once we come back here on Game On Sports Production, edition of Dallas Roughnecks Ultimate Disc, we will bring you the second half of action right here live from the Colony on Game On Sports.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
skills that when it comes to cancer can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
What does the most experienced advertising
Welcome back to the Colony, the five-star sports complex, where the Dallas Roughnecks and the Austin Soul have opened up this 2017 AUDL season, and the Roughnecks, after one half of play, have a 2-goal advantage, 11-9, over the Soul. Both of these teams very fond of each other, and by fond, I mean completely rivals. 4 games last year between these two. Roughnecks, of course, going undefeated throughout the season, won all 4. But each time these two teams met, it was a closer game every single time. The Roughnecks 17-0 from a year ago, defending AUDL champions. And, of course, we got to catch up with Commissioner Steve Gordon at halftime. Paige Schnorbach was able to talk to him for a little bit. And coming back to the second half, the Roughnecks have a chance here to really open up the scoring again. They will have the disc to start things out and get things going again here in the third quarter. But for now, it is a close ball game between the Roughnecks and the Austin Soul. And by ball game, I mean disc match, I guess, is what I should probably say to be politically correct. 11-9 is the score, and the Roughnecks will get the disc to start things off as we are back underway, the opening pull of the second half, and the Roughnecks are receiving that one.
And Dallas to start on offense here in the third quarter, coming out very quick.
Yeah, Peterson able to dump it back off to Mechanix, and Roughnecks, despite being, once again, extremely efficient and methodical on the offensive attack in the first half, never got up by more than 3. Here's Mickle looking for Freechild, and a beautiful huck from Jimmy Mickle right into the breadbasket of Dylan Freechild for another Roughnecks score.
That was a tough throw and a tough catch, but also very, very tough to guard as well. Dylan had several steps on his defender there, and he just has incredible explosive speed from the first step, but he also has incredible closing speed as well, and that's just part of what makes him such a threat. He's a great handler because he has that explosiveness, but then he can catch those deep throws so well because of that closing speed. Really fun to watch.
So the Roughnecks open up, once again, a 3-goal advantage over the Soul, 12-9 with 11:31 remaining in the third quarter. So it only took 29 seconds for the Roughnecks to get right back on the board. And with the strong wins that all these players have been dealing with throughout the match, as the pool goes right over the top of us once again. They've had some very high arcing pulls and hucks throughout the entire night so far.
There's a lot of strategy that goes into great pulls, and the positioning and the hang time just makes such a difference. Double teams, too, something you see in the AUDL and not other levels of disc play. The Soul able to break through that. Mitch Bennett throwing up a big...
What a diving D from the Danimal, Dan Emmons, laying out to knock that one away from Caleb Denacor. And once again, the Soul get rejected by the Roughnecks as the Danimal gets his second layout D of the night. This one chucked up, looking for Emmons once again. Emmons got a hand on it, and Slack is there to pick up the ricochet.
Collecting some trash, but he ran into the end zone, so as a result, he has to go back to where he caught the disc, initially caught it.
And so Slack with a chance to add on to the lead, and a nice defensive play there from Ethan Pollock.
I think the stall count was getting high, so Slack knew, okay, I'm going to toss it, try and make it easy to catch, but that was still tough for Zach Riggins to catch.
And especially with 6'6", Ethan Pollock streaking across the front of you, it's not easy to get it past that long body.
Difficult backhand break, well executed. Intercepted, though.
Intercepted by Riggins. Here's Bennett looking for a diving roughneck in the corner of the end zone, unable to complete it. And so the score will remain 12-9. And another opportunity squandered right near the goal line by Dallas, as they've had some rough sledding here starting out the third quarter from that position. Wind starting to pick up. I don't know if you guys can hear it in our microphones, but we're getting hit pretty hard up atop this tower that we sit upon. So Pollock hands it to Best. Best looking downfield, trying to find Schaefer. Schaefer can't handle it, so the Roughnecks will regain possession. Dalton Smith will take it right above the midfield logo, and a beautiful D coming across and making the play is Jeff Loscorn, and knocking that one down for another Soul turnover.
And one reason the Soul threw that initial turnover is because they wanted to get it out of their end zone area. And then from there, Loscorn was able to force that D, get a block, and now the Soul have the disc midfield. So it was essentially a strategic yardage advantage when you didn't necessarily have a bunch of open looks. But
looks like a miscommunication there. Best was looking downfield to Mitch Bennett, and instead Jason Schaefer reached up, tried to make a grab, and couldn't pull it down. So just a little miscommunication between those two teammates, resulting in a turnover, so the Roughnecks will have it. It looks like brick mark extended on the near side. So a timeout for these two squads. Is there's the Danimal D. Once again, the replay is Dan Emmons able to lay out a beautiful defensive play there from Emmons. As you can see it right here, and once again, the Roughnecks with the 12-9 advantage. Sorry, Emmy, I keep cutting you off.
Quite all right. That's part of what earned Dan Emmons' first all-defensive team in the AUDL last season. Is really recognizing an opportunity and for sure just really capitalizing. So scary in the air, that Dan Emmons.
He's got a big, lean body. Dan Emmons does to work with. So 8:37 remaining on the clock here in the third quarter. Once again, the Roughnecks with the 12-9 advantage, as Brandon Malachek will get things started after the timeout, guarded closely by Ryan Purcell. Looks like a little conversation between Purcell and Malachek. Malachek's able to give it to Laurie. Laurie ditching the hat here in the second half.
Great fake from Ben Laurie.
There's the hammer cross field, finding Peterson.
And that was just enough of what Ben Laurie needed to create to get Carson Wilder off balance a little bit, and then able to throw that. Gosh, that's a tough throw, too. Malachek reading it really well.
There's Mickle near side to Mazer. Mazer finds a wide open Laurie in the end zone, and Laurie looking a little different without the hat, but the same result, putting the Roughnecks up by 4, their biggest lead of the night. 13-9 now the score.
And interestingly enough, Chris Mazer decided to throw a backhand there rather than a flick. So an inside backhand essentially, but because of the wind and how fast those flicks have been going out that side, that's actually a really obviously completed there to a wide open receiver, but it was a smart choice. So it was easier to track down than probably if it was a forehand.
It did look easy for Laurie to make the reception in the end zone, and that'll make it 13-9. The Roughnecks with a 4-goal lead, like I said, their largest of the night. And the Soul on the other side trying to potentially keep this one close. If they can keep it within 3 goals, the Soul always have a chance, as explosive as they could be with Pollock, players like Danicourt out there as well. as Loscorn tries to reach up and grab that one. Can't pull it out of the air, and there's a turnover on the Roughnecks side of the field as Freechild will gather it.
And this is really what the Dallas D-line then eats up. And they had some positional defense that they were playing to try and make that throw a little bit tougher.
There's Hollerman, and that one's being snagged on the diving bid from Coffin to keep that one alive for the Roughnecks. Is a foul called from the officials.
Coffin was looking for that call and got it from the officials there.
It was a late call. Pollock couldn't believe it. Nonetheless, Freechild has it and has a wide open streaking and catching.
Reed Bacon
Reed
with
Bacon
the score.
On the far side of the end zone, and as soon as Freechild was able to make the reception and look to the far side of the field, he saw Bacon streaking. Nobody even close to him on the defensive end, and just like that, it's 14-9, a 5-goal advantage for the Roughnecks.
And that's Reed really timing his cut, seeing when the disc is caught, where his position is, and then not waiting till, okay, I catch it, I'm set, let me think about a few things, and then running, but really running that continued cut right off the bat.
That's exactly right. 7:11 remaining in the third quarter. Roughnecks really taking advantage of some open looks that are being given to them by the Soul here in the third quarter. The defense that Austin had really standing strong throughout much of the first half, kind of easing up a little bit, and the Roughnecks have taken advantage so far. Also taking advantage of turnovers. There's another one there. Mickle intercepts it, gives it to Bennett, and then right back to Mickle again for the bookends. And a 6-goal advantage for Dallas as they have opened this one up here in the third.
And that's what's difficult with a lot of teams, is that matching up with the depth that Dallas has, where even if it is closer earlier on in the game, and there still is a lot of Frisbee left to be played.
Oh, very much so.
Ultimate is definitely a game of runs, but when you're coming in typically as the underdog, you have to stop the run as quickly as possible and keep it moving.
So 7:01 remaining in the third quarter, excuse me. 15-9 the score. And like I said, the Roughnecks opening this one up here in the third. And a lot of that has been off of turnovers forced by the Roughnecks. And like you were talking about, they have been able to be extremely efficient, especially whenever they're able to get the disc on their own side of the field.
Reed Bacon was the first down on the pull. Cut off that handler movement.
Another whistle as the Soul will have to turn it back around, in a contact there. Hogg thought he had a hand on the disc. Instead, it was contact, the integrity rule being applied there.
So he's double teamed, but finds his way out of that.
How about this one, looking for Loscorn, climbing the ladder, just can't pull it down once again. And another opportunity from the Soul, had an open Loscorn in the end zone, just couldn't connect for the score.
And he was reaching farther to be able to get it, but I know he and his teammates certainly thought that that's typically within his reach.
So the Roughnecks back on the attack. A lot of talking here from the Soul sideline, trying to help their defense with another couple, or I guess a lot more eyes to work with on this Soul sideline. Peterson with it now near midfield. Dump it to Jackson. Jackson is going to send that one down the field looking for Frood. Frood is going to jump, make the play. He has Bacon open in the end zone, doesn't see him yet. Instead, he'll dump it back to Peterson. Peterson now to Jackson. Jackson, a beautiful fake. Instead, he's going to send it to Peterson in the end zone, and Peterson with the pancake grab to make it 16-9, and the run continues for the Roughnecks as they have put 5 unanswered goals on the board here in the third quarter.
And that play there showed their composure in the red zone. So yes, Reed Bacon was in the end zone. It seemed like he was unguarded, but the type of throw that would be able to get to him there would allow his defender to probably make a play on that disc. So instead of going with the riskier pass, they have some additional handler movement and then able to convert off of that.
Yeah, very much so. And while we have a little bit of a break in action, let's go down to our third member of our team, Paige Normbach, on the sideline. Paige.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, one of the Roughnecks' most valuable defensive players is Dan Emmons, and we've seen him take some hard hits today while he's on the sideline. I actually went up to him and I said, hey, if you want to make it through this whole season, you're going to have to stop going down so hard. And all he said was, you are preaching to the choir.
Thanks, Paige. Emmons has played extremely well tonight. A couple diving Ds on the end of some incredible defensive stands for the Roughnecks as he is out on the field now. And what a pull there from
I don't think that pull was intended, is what Matt Bennett intended.
Or Matt Bennett, excuse me.
He was hoping for a big outside-in backhand there. It went very outside-in. It just didn't quite catch the distance that he was hoping for.
Didn't even make it past midfield. I thought for maybe a second one of us could have potentially made a play on the disc, and instead it's the Soul with some good field possession, or field position to start this possession, rather, on the attack now as Purcell is going to grab that one. Here's the hammer from Purcell looking for Hayes in the end zone, and he's going to find Hayes for the first Soul goal in the second half. The first one since their buzzer-beating Huck at the end of the second quarter to make it 16-10.
And Purcell was double-teamed there. The stall count was getting high. And at first, it looked like a miscommunication between Walsh and Purcell, but he throws to space. Another kind of, beginners who are learning about Ultimate, throw to space, trust your teammates, and Purcell was able to run and catch that disc and then throw it for the score. Really great play there.
As you can see there, Hayes with another reception. He's had a strong night so far, and we're just getting underway here in the second half of action. The Roughnecks with the 16-10 advantage as this pool goes directly in front of us and into the back of the end zone. If you want a distance on a pool from that end zone to the other, there's an example of how to do it. Freechild finds Laurie on the near side. Freechild looking deep, had Mickle streaking, and instead will dump it to Malachek. Malachek finds Laurie once again. Mickle trying to make a move. He's open in the back of the end zone. Instead, Laurie deciding not to make the difficult throw, and instead will dump it to Kai Marshall. Marshall looking for Mazer and finding Mazer in the back of the end zone.
That was a great continuation play there between Marshall and Mazer. Mazer with the great cut to that back cone of the end zone. Marshall with a controlled touch on his throw there because he had some struggles with his longer throws earlier on.
You're used to seeing Kai Sky High Marshall making some spectacular plays in the back of the end zone, and this time he's able to assist Mazer and put another notch on the board. 17-10 now the score in favor of the Roughnecks.
And that's just something to remember, that those 4 cones of the end zones are the most valuable spots on the field. So you want to keep clear, you want to cut to them, and then you want to clear if you cut there and you're not going to get the disc. Well, Mazer anticipating cut there, got the disc, and scored.
So the 7-goal advantage, tying the largest of the night for the Roughnecks. And both of these teams back in action next weekend, both against the Flyers, the Raleigh Flyers, as there's a diving bid
Great
from
catch
Pollock
from
on
Pollock.
the near side.
He had, it looked like it was down, but his fingers were just clutched underneath. Great IO backhand from Schaefer.
What an adjustment from Denacor as well. Looked like that disc may have bladed downward a little bit, but instead he was able to get underneath it and be ready for that adjustment to make the grab and make it a 17-11 game.
And those are the quick kinds of scores that the Soul need right now, especially with a little bit over 1 quarter left in the game. They're down by 6. Certainly doable if they have quick scores like that. However, we have the Austin O-line back, who they were just on the field recently, but very, very difficult to guard and cover.
That's exactly right. The Dallas O-line being able to really have their way with the Soul so far tonight, and they've had the 6-2 advantage here in the third quarter alone. And you talked about the Soul kind of maybe not running out of time, but time's definitely not on their side whenever you're down by 6. A chance to potentially try and have some momentum. What about Slack laying out for the diving bid and making the grab?
Great grab from Slack. He had great fakes there too, and they were very convincing. It looked like he might throw up a big backhand. There wasn't somebody there really for him to throw that to, but it was enough to get his mark off balance.
So Mickle on the far side, a beautiful fake again as Freechild's gonna snag that one. They'll dump it back to Mazer. The Roughnecks taking their time, 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Mazer near side to Mickle, has an open. Freechild's gonna thread the needle. Freechild can't grab it.
Uncharacteristic Jimmy Mickle IO flick that doesn't complete, but I think he threw it a little bit off balance. Dylan Freechild usually can kind of accommodate even if a throw isn't completely perfect, but now it's time for them to play defense.
They're gonna have to right away as this one's thrown up to Wilder. Wilder can't climb the ladder, and the good defense there from Laurie, able to potentially take away a potential adjustment from Lowry to try and make that grab, or from Wilder to make that grab. Here's
So,
Mickle.
Answers with another huck.
Both Roughnecks in the air are able to get a hand on it, but it'll fall harmlessly to the ground. So back and forth down the field, looking almost like a tennis match. In the past couple of seconds, a couple long hucks. Throwing high into the air and hanging up in the wind. There's another one that does just that. And a timeout, or a whistle called. May not be a timeout. It was a timeout taken. So 1:49 remaining in the third quarter. The Roughnecks still with the 6-goal lead over Austin and the Soul. And what do you need to see, Amy, from the Soul here in the final minute and half and change of this third quarter to try and help them propel themselves into this fourth quarter?
Well, I think it's the main reason Austin Soul coach Edith Tang called that timeout is that they have good field position here and they have to take advantage of it. And this is a break opportunity for them. Dallas' O-line is on the field right now and extremely important. They're right in the shadow of our incredible fans.
That's
who are
exactly right.
in overflow seating right now at our beer garden and our food trucks. It's just really, really great to see such an awesome turnout for our opening day here at the Roughnecks.
One of the things I miss the most about the Roughnecks season being here in the home games and everything about that is, one, the fans in terms of being so riled up and passionate throughout the season, and then also just the complete party that these ultimate games are and how much fun they are to really show all the passion that's involved in the sport. And really, of course, a great team on the field as well. Now with a 6-goal lead, and the Soul have their first home game coming up next weekend on the 8th against the Flyers as well. The Roughnecks will be home against the Flyers next weekend, next Saturday. Again, as that one is gonna fall to the ground, a diving bid. It looks like maybe misjudged there initially from Paul Starkle. Just couldn't handle it.
That was a tough throw, and it's a tough throw to catch. Thought that maybe that extension might be there. There were some substitutions on the Dallas side during that timeout.
So here's Freechild. He's going to be stalled out. That's good defense from the Soul, not allowing any kind of outlet pass from Freechild. No open space, no open Roughnecks for Freechild to even try and throw it up to. He knew the count was kind of getting close to that breaking point and just couldn't find anybody at the end there.
So the difference between AUDL Ultimate and College or Club is that the stall count is 7, not 10, and then the mark is also not counting the stall audibly. The ref is counting the stall in his or her head. So it is more difficult to read, but the Austin Soul able to capitalize on that stall call, and now they've taken the lead. They've narrowed it within 5 with only 45 seconds left in the quarter.
Yeah, so 17-12 is the score, and the Soul right there giving the Roughnecks a little taste of their own medicine. A turnover on the attacking end for the Soul. They were able to take advantage and off of the stall count from Dylan Freechild, and Caleb Danicourt, once again, the goals leader from a year ago on this Soul roster, and once again gets open in the back of the end zone. You got to expect that from Danicourt, the speed that he possesses, and then the slipperiness to try and get open, especially in deep into their attacking area.
And I think that was really, that stall call was really the suffocating defense of the Austin Soul, and just not a lot of initiation cuts out of Dallas, which is uncharacteristic for them, but again, opening day, not going to take too much stock into that.
Here's Mazer sending a laser shot. Nowhere near a streaking Mickle, so another turnover forced by the Soul. There's 29 seconds remaining on the clock. That clock ran a little bit after the initial whistle on the far end, but the Soul still with a lot of time to work with, potentially shrinking this lead even more so before the end of the quarter.
And that's the tough part in AUDL, again, AUDL versus club or college ultimate, is that you're used to score, okay, how many passes can I most efficiently score? Well, when you're in this kind of situation, possession is key, which clearly did not happen right there.
Yeah, turnover here, and here's a Mickle hammer throw, looking in the back of the end zone and unable to find Laurie on a tough throw and a tough, really, reception to try and be made there by Laurie, and so the Soul have it with 5.2 seconds left, and they were able to convert on a buzzer beater at the end of the first half. Let's see if they can even get it to the end zone. They're not going to be able to, and that'll do it for quarter number 3. The Roughnecks up 17-12 over the Austin Soul, and now that we have a quick break between quarters, let's send it down to Paige Schnorbach on the sideline. Paige.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with owner Jim Garanser. Jim, at the beginning of the game, you were presented with a championship trophy from last season. What did that mean to you?
Well, it's the first championship Dallas Ultimate has ever won, so it was probably something I've been trying to win since 1979. So that kind of gives you an idea of how exciting it was.
All right, this is your second season. The team looks a little different. What are your expectations from this team?
You know, I think we have a lot deeper team than we had last year. I thought we had a top-heavy team and then this year it's a little bit different, but I think we're stronger in the long run. We're younger. The team's more fun. They're super excited about what they think they can do. Right now, we're still undefeated, and I'm expecting big things from them.
And with some big players from last year gone, who do you think are going to be the new big players?
You know, I think it's pretty obvious. Jimmy Mickle, Dylan Freechild, all the big boys from Dallas, Danimal. We got some great players.
All right, thank you so much. Kyle and Emmy, back up to y'all.
Thanks, Jim and Paige. Once again, like Jim was saying, a deep roster really showing out this afternoon, Emmy, for the Roughnecks. They're up by 5, a chance here to potentially close this out in the fourth quarter. They had a very strong third quarter, but now if they can carry that over into the fourth, they are well on their way to a 1-0 start here in 2017.
Yes, I think if they can play their game, figure out what they need to work on, and the kinks that they need to work out, because it is the beginning of the season, then they should definitely be fine. At the same time, the Soul have snuck in a couple goals here and there that certainly make it a little bit more interesting. So I think this will be a great test for Austin as well, just to see how they work in adverse situations.
One thing for Austin Soul that they haven't been able to do back in the first 3 quarters of this one is put together a big run. The difference in this one has been the Roughnecks in that 6-0 run that they were able to put on. But as we get ready to start this fourth quarter, everyone watching at home right now, make sure and come out to a game here at the Colony 5-Star Sports Complex. 5-star doesn't even cover the rating that I would give this place. A beautiful facility out here in the Colony. Got the grandstands full to the brink, like you said, overflow seating on the hill. Bring out your blankets, your towels, whatever you want to sit on. It's just a beautiful complex and just an electric atmosphere here in the DFW area for some really good ultimate discs. Both of these teams, very strong playoff contenders for this season.
Exactly, and their food trucks, Lone Star Beer is the official beer sponsor of the Dallas Roughnecks this season with $3 tall boys. You heard that right. It is, if you...
That is not an April Fool's joke.
No, no, it is not.
Neither was that Huck finding Ethan Pollock in the end zone. A beautiful Huck from the Soul to trim the lead back down to 4.
And that's what we were just talking about in between quarters, is that the Soul really haven't given up or just kind of put their tails between their legs and said, okay, let's go back to Austin. There's still a quarter left of Frisbee to be played. You can see this power position here. So that's a big backhand that Schaefer is able to throw to Pollock. And when you create those power position moments, that is just prime for big receivers like Pollock to take advantage of and keep this lead now at 4.
Yeah, Austin doing a good job not going away just yet. 17-13 is the score, just over 11.5 minutes remaining in this one. The Soul from a year ago, 7-7 overall, like we talked about in the open, barely missing the playoff picture by just the slimmest of point differentials. And then on the other side, you have the Roughnecks, the defending AUDL champions, 17-0, perfect first season for Dallas, still trying to work on that winning streak of 17 straight, as Slack's gonna corral that one and send it to Laurie as they are on their attacking end of the field.
And they are running out of this vertical stack, trying to really use that whole field.
There's Mazer with it. He's gonna cross the field, change the direction as Freechild's gonna go with the hammer, looking in the end zone and finding an open Ben Laurie for another Roughneck score.
And that's why it's so tough to guard when teams use that entire field. You have a blade across one way, you have a hammer across the other way, and Dylan Freechild, recognizing where Ben Laurie is cutting onto that break side, has just a pinpoint hammer to find him there. Michael Mathis, his defender, looked like he was limping a little bit, so I'm wondering if he maybe turned an ankle or something, which maybe helped allow that space. No injury was called, though, on that play, so everything was legal.
And with that being said, you talked about how it's so difficult to defend some of these players with the arsenal that they have in their tool shed, just being able to go to a hammer, go to a forehand, go to a backhand, and every time they are able to do these kind of moves to get open, to make a fake and get some open space to work with, it's been incredibly efficient between all of these offensive attackers for the Dallas Roughnecks, and it's a tough one to guard, especially whenever not only they have the arsenal of moves individually, but an arsenal of players with an arsenal of moves, and that's really what was the key for the Roughnecks last season, and the Soul doing a good job here in this one, keeping it close. As here's Pollock and a chance to potentially add a goal, and the pancake grab is in the end zone. Ethan Pollock makes it a 4-goal game.
That was a fantastic backhand from Paul Starkle, an inside-out backhand, and was able, the path that it was taking, you'll see it on this replay. So he sets up, throws this IO backhand knowing where the defender is so that Ethan Pollock can shift and rotate, and now he's in better position than if he had thrown an OI backhand. And that's kind of to your point, Kyle, about that arsenal. It's also recognizing in the situation what makes the most sense, and Starkle creates that open look for Ethan Pollock with that throw.
And Jason Hollerman in the defensive chase there did as much as he could to stick with Pollock. Pollock with the presence of mind to wait until after he was past the goal line in order to pancake that grab and reel it in for another Soul score.
So you see this rolling pull right here that was intended so it doesn't hang as much. It's also going to the side. So it's a different look, kind of sets Dallas on their heels a little bit.
Yeah, Coach Tang with the Soul making some adjustments in the middle of this fourth quarter, try and get back in this one. They have hung around, just unable to get any kind of lead on the Roughnecks, as
and Dallas doing a great job really breaking those double team scenarios, those traps on the sideline there. Even Brandon Malachek. Oh, a little too much. I was going to say that was a fantastic catch, but maybe a little bit of conservation of greatness there too.
Yeah, a little bit there as he fell to the ground, tried to make the adjustment and just couldn't hold on. And so another turnover forced by Austin as they will head back the other direction. And a chance with Hayes streaking down the field, has a couple steps on a defender. Austin, and it looks like the Soul handlers just didn't see it, but here is a streaking Wilder in the back of the end zone for an easy reception. And just like that, here come the Soul, not done just yet. 9:08 remaining, and they're only down by 3.
And that was a break for Austin. And that's exactly what they have to do to keep this game interesting. But at the same time, back to what Chris Mazer has said to his team, you will face adversity. This isn't going to be the only time in the season where they're within 3 with 9 minutes left to go in the game, but it's that mental toughness. How do you handle that when maybe you didn't complete the pass quite like you liked it, or maybe the other team scored and you didn't like that? Maybe you just got broken. Maybe you made a bad decision, but it's really, you know, working through that. But I will say this is giving a little bit of wind in the sails for Austin as well. You see they have a little bit more swagger than maybe they did in the third quarter.
So off of this pool with 9:08 remaining, the Roughnecks, after giving up a couple unanswered goals to the Soul, only find their lead sitting at 3. And if you're Dallas, you need to take advantage of every possession. I know that seems like common sense, but every possession from here on out in the fourth quarter is crucial, not only to prevent the score from getting closer, but prevent the confidence and the momentum of swinging completely in the way of the Austin Soul. And here's Peterson in the end zone, a diving effort to try and lay out for the D, as Lucky Masola ended up diving across the front of Peterson, but Peterson had already made the grab.
And that was another just example of using that vertical stack and cutting off of the throws. And they clearly have communication with each other, knowing who is going to be making those cuts and just timing that so well. That is how that score happened, was properly timed cuts. Just super fun to watch, and why these guys are playing at the level they are.
That's exactly right. And the Roughnecks, with maybe a little bit of added pressure on that possession, able to answer quickly and put another goal on the board, 19-15. Still well below their season average from a year ago. They averaged almost 29 a game. They got 10 more that they would have to put on the board in the next 8.5 minutes to make that happen or reach even close to that average from a year ago. But they still have a 4-goal advantage over the Soul.
It's a really interesting help D set that the Dallas is playing right now, but you can tell that they're really trying to take away those big hucks. So a lot of the shorter passes underneath, clogging the lanes, making it difficult. That was highly contested. Good pass though from Mitch Bennett to Caleb Denacor.
Yeah, the Soul passing has been more straight on, more accurate here in the fourth quarter, as Bennett is going to get open in the right side of the end zone, high-fiving a fellow Soul fan.
Brother scores on brother. Matt Bennett thought he might be able to get a hand on that disc. You see Caleb Denacor with it, big backhand. Matt Bennett almost catching it, but the elder Mitch Bennett scores instead. Oh, he's actually high-fiving Patrick Christmas, the owner of the Austin Soul.
Oh, there you go.
Standing by right there on the sideline.
Just a bystander off to the right, no big deal. High-fiving the owner after a score. So once again, the Soul answering back, not going away just yet. Bennett able to make it a 3-goal game between the Roughnecks and the Austin Soul with 7:58 remaining. The wind's starting to die down a little bit here. Now, I don't want to jinx anything, Emmy, because we know just as well as anybody that it could pick up at some point in the next couple of minutes. But it is dying down as the sun is completely set
here in the Colony. Here's Mickle looking for Freechild. Freechild has a step. That disc is gonna hang up in the end zone. The diving bid comes up just short as Freechild just barely unable to grab that disc and just couldn't pull it down.
So that, yes, that huck hung for a long time, but also seemed highly unlikely that it could be caught. But the fact that Freechild was able to gain as much ground as he did and have it just bounce off of his fingertips is remarkable.
The closing speed was uncanny from Dylan Freechild as the pressure is on in the Soul end zone as the Roughnecks defense being extra aggressive. Here's a long huck looking for Hayes. He's going to be met with 2 Roughneck defenders, and that one's intercepted by Freechild as he plucks that one out of the air.
And initially, Wilder did look like he was open, or Hayes, I'm sorry, looked like he was open, but I think his defenders saw where the disc was going and were able to make up that ground.
Freechild is going to send it past midfield, finding Laurie. Laurie over the top of Slack. Slack couldn't snag that one out of thin air, and it's going to be a turnover. So the Soul a chance here to bring it back within 2, and Coach Tang's going to call a quick timeout to talk things over with her squad and potentially put together maybe some kind of set play here with 6.5 minutes remaining in the 4th to try and bring it back within a couple goals.
At this point in the game, why not? You are in an attacking position, you're going towards the goal, and use those timeouts certainly to your advantage. So let us know on Twitter and on Facebook who you think the player of the game should be today. We've had a lot of great plays from Jimmy Mickle, from Dylan Freechild, from Dan Emmons, Stanley Peterson. Let us know who you think should be the player of the game, and we might pick them. They might get interviewed at the end of the game. Want to shout out all of the fans that are watching in from out of town. I know you couldn't make the trip up to Dallas. Lots of Austin fans. I heard from several different Austin folks that I know that are tuning in and watching. The Arkansas women's college team is tuning in from Fayetteville. Other Fayetteville Frisbee fans are tuning in to watch Abe and Matt. Our food trucks are really busy. I've seen some people on the live stream who are here in person also watching the live stream. Maybe they're missing some of the action because they're out at the food truck, so they're going to watch it on the live stream.
Hey, why not? You got to keep us with you wherever you can go, on the phone, on Facebook, the computer, wherever. But like I said earlier, the atmosphere here is unbelievable. Another sold-out crowd for the Roughnecks, overflow seating, and a season opener to remember, especially if the Roughnecks can pull it out, or even if the Soul can potentially put together a comeback. A nice snag there from Denacor, because that one was scraping the blades of grass. It was so low.
All of the Dallas players were calling up over there. That was good sportsmanship. And Austin moving the disc really, really quickly, just not trying to hang on to it for too long. Well, I say that until now. Stahl getting dangerously close. Denacor does get rid of it, though.
Yeah, a little bit of added urgency with this Austin Soul attack. And there's an open Bennett. Bennett looking for Denacor. Instead, he's going to change direction and has Pollock in the end zone. Pollock doesn't have a play on the disc, and Bennett, frustrated with himself, is going to throw his hat off and onto the sideline. So 5.5 minutes remaining, and a big chance there as Pollock was open in the back of the end zone, had a step on his defender, but just couldn't reel in the disc.
Yeah, you could see he had visible frustration. He saw that opportunity, but now Dallas working it up the full field. Laser of a throw from Jay Frood to Casey Hogg there.
Say the same thing as he's looking and connecting with Smith. Smith on the other end looking for Matt Jackson, and Jackson's going to take the floating disc and reel it in for the 20th Roughneck score of the afternoon.
And Dallas not wasting much time at all working it back down the field after that turnover. Probably had 5 passes, I would say. A lot, just really working up that sideline and then finding Matt Jackson on that other side of the field. We have viewers from all over the world. Ashley from Seoul, South Korea. Fred from Montreal, not quite so far, but Thomas from Alabama. I know the Soul has a player from Mexico who plays on the Phoenix, and Victor Bautista. So hopefully we have some friends in Mexico who are tuning in as well. We're so glad you're watching. We're so glad that Victor is playing with the Soul. That's just really neat to see players from other countries coming and playing in the league.
It's also nice to see viewers from all around the world. If you are from anywhere outside the DFW area, be sure to comment on the Facebook Live, on the stream, and we love to see where our viewership is coming from. We love doing this. We're very blessed to be able to do this announcing job for the Roughnecks, a great organization, and then also to be able to see some awesome competition from teams such as the Austin Soul, and this rivalry rekindled again to start the 2017 season. There isn't anything better to watch Ultimate Disc between two Texas foes in the Lone Star Status. A diving bid there from Lewis comes up just a bit short.
So his Ben Lewis nickname is eBay because he bids a lot. You can see, case in point, right there.
I love it.
eBay Lewis. The Soul changing field. Just a couple yards out, and a diving bid and a diving goal as Lucky Masola makes the play to bring the Soul back within 3, 20-17 now the score.
So you could see Beershank catching the disc on the far sideline, finding Lucky Masola for that grab. Masola goes to the ground for it, but stays with it, catches it. And now we're within 3. 4 minutes left. Laura looks comfy there. She is captain of the UT Frisbee team, Ultimate Team Melee. She's also the vice president of the Roughnecks, daughter of owner Jim Garansher. We have folks from just all over the world. We have Scotland, we have China, we have Pittsburgh, PA, Nova Scotia, Wisconsin, San Jose, Philly, yeah, Phoenix, Russia, Philippines, Toronto, Colorado, Charleston. How awesome. We have a Mickle nomination for Player of the Game as well. I think that's a pretty good nomination.
That is a pretty good nomination. That's always a pretty safe bet. Second in MVP voting a year ago. One of the leaders on this Roughneck team. How about Mazer laying out for the bid and making the reception? Masola guarded closely as Laurie is going to make the reception right atop the Roughnecks logo at midfield. Here's Mickle on the far side.
Dallas really using the larger AUDL field with their vert stack here. Jimmy Mickle with that big OI for Mazer. Loses yards, but still maintains possession.
Now Freechild has it on the near side. He'll dump it off to Slack. Slack immediately looking upfield. He's going to have to dump it off to Freechild. Freechild's going to come up, make the grab. Once again, the stall count starting to get pretty high as he's going to dump it to Mickle near midfield, and with extreme amount of room to work, Mickle will just dump it off to Slack. I thought something big may have come from Mickle with that much room to work. You never really see Jimmy get that wide open. Here's Malachek, as Malachek will give it to Emmons on the far side. How about Emmons getting it to Freechild, and Freechild just another conservation of greatness, as that one's just gonna fall harmlessly to the ground.
I think it fell. It did not fall harmlessly because it was not completed. But you could see the visible frustration from Freechild and then shock from the Soul sideline. But that's a gimme for the Soul to really use and take advantage of.
So here's the Soul working it back up into the attacking area, and right now being efficient, a chance to bring it back within 2 minutes remaining time, not on the Soul side, as they've got to get something going and get it going quickly. They've been doing better on the defensive end, but at the same time have yet to pull within or less than 3 in the entire second half.
A double team though, Purcell with a good step out to get around that.
There's Cunningham looking and trying to find an open Soul player down the field. Wilder was his target, and instead it's a turnover. So Marshall with it is potentially gonna send it downfield, looking for Freechild, and Freechild's gonna make it, has a wide open Ben Laurie on the right side of the field, and there's another Roughnecks score, 21-17 with 1:20 remaining.
And that was really great. There were more Dallas players on that end of the field than there were Soul players. So Dylan Freechild could look and see, okay, I could throw it to slack, but here comes an unguarded Ben Laurie going to the end zone. It's a backhand throw as well. Higher completion, especially since he's not covered, gets that goal.
Not a whole lot of time left for Austin to try and pull back within striking distance of this one. 21-7 is the score. The graphic hasn't been updated just yet on your screen, but it is 21-17. And so the Roughnecks with the pull, sending that one almost into the Souls end zone as
Matt Jackson way first down on the pull.
And we're used to
so
seeing
fast.
That, especially from Mac Jackson, just the hustle that he puts on an opening pull or on any kind of pull or any kind of play. With that being said, Jackson's always in the midst.
Works really hard. Dan Emmons bids for it. I'm not sure if he got a hand on it or not, but it was enough to rattle Denacor.
Denacor with his second drop, uncharacteristic from Caleb throughout the night. This is a long huck, looking and not finding any kind of roughneck connection, as Pollock's gonna try and hurry this one up, down by 4 and under 35 seconds remaining. Pollock finds a streaking Starkle. Starkle's gonna make that reception, nobody near him. Denacor is on the run, and a timeout called by the Soul with 24.7 seconds remaining here in the fourth. Before we bring you the conclusion of this one, let's send it to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Game On Sports.
What does the most experienced advertising agency look like? Miller's senior staff brings an average of 18 years of experience to each meeting. 18 years.
Austin did not have any more timeouts left, so it became a turnover. Now it's Dallas Disc working it up the sideline, or up the full field.
Yeah, that threw us a curveball. We thought it was a timeout called for sure, but like you said, Austin being out of timeouts ended up being a turnover. And so 3 seconds left, and the Roughnecks will complete just a couple more passes, and that will do it. One game into the 2017 season, and the Roughnecks pull this one out over in-state rival, the Austin Soul. 21-17, the final score of this one, and the Roughnecks continuing their success from a year ago, a 4-goal advantage over the Soul. It was close throughout. The largest goal lead for the Roughnecks was 6 at one point in the third quarter, but the Soul tried to fight back, got it within 3, and that was about it. Before we come back with our game wrap-up, let's send it to a commercial break. We will be back with more here for Roughnecks Ultimate, presented by Game On Sports.
We know what works and what doesn't. Media and digital plans based on proven past performance. Creatives that sell first and never worried about awards or accolades. An account service that can lead your business based on 18+ years of
Welcome back to the Colony, where the Dallas Roughnecks start the season 1-0 with a 21-17 victory over in-state rival, the Austin Soul. Right now, let's go onto the field where Paige Schnorbach has our player of the game, Jimmy Mickle, standing by.
Thanks, Kyle. As you said, I'm here with Jimmy. Jimmy, this was your first game back. How did it feel for you?
It was good. Yeah, ups and downs throughout the game, obviously, but good to get away with a win, so excited.
You were a power player last season. Clearly, you're going to be a power player again this season. What do you want to see out of this team?
I mean, I think we need to work on a lot of things. I think, obviously, our timing wasn't exactly where we needed it to be tonight, and I think we got a little tired in the second half. We came out strong and then let them back in it a bit, so I think we got to work on playing better when we're tired. I think will be a focus going into next week.
So a couple of your teammates left. This is a new-looking team. Who do you want to step up and play alongside you this season?
I mean, I think we saw some pieces tonight. I mean, Stanley, Peterson, and Ben Laurie did an awesome job on the O-line when we were all getting tired and they were just churning away, getting yards. And defensively, I think Jay Fruit and Abe and Matty Jackson are gonna do a lot of work for us too. So we probably didn't utilize them as well tonight as we can in the future. So we'll work on doing that.
All right, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thanks,
Kyle, Emmy.
Thanks, Paige. And Jimmy Mickle, a great game once again for the Roughnecks. A great game overall, 21-17, the final score once again from the Colony. Emmy, what are some of your final thoughts from this season opening victory for the Roughnecks? The Soul now moving on with an 0-1 record.
I think there were a lot of uncertainties at first when Bo Kittredge and Cassidy Rasmussen announced that they weren't going to be returning to the Roughnecks this year, but you can see the Dallas team has made a lot of adjustments. They've shown that it's not always going to be perfect. There are going to be definitely things that they need to work on, but it's still going to be a very exciting season of Frisbee, a very stacked roster and stacked team, but the games are closer. We didn't have this narrow of a margin to start the season. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how then they fare with Raleigh in their next home game, April 9th, here at home. They've had some really big pickups in the offseason. Jacksonville has had some pickups as well. So I think it'll be a really, really exciting season to watch.
It's going to be a very tight race in that southern division of the AUDL getting started tonight, the opening season for the Roughnecks. So let's take a quick look back here at the highlight package for tonight's game where the Soul lose to the Roughnecks 21-17, a great game from Dallas. So let's look at some of the highlights that we have here. Still waiting for those to pop up. Here they are, the 450 plus attending tonight as the Roughnecks got started early, Emmy, and never really looked back.
Yes, you can see they're using the full field. Dalton Smith going to Ben Lewis there for the score. And then Austin answering back with Carson Wilder. Then Thomas Slack with that reaching grab for the score as well. Paul Starkle with the big, big grab in traffic.
And we saw for much of the first half of this game, the Soul and the Roughnecks really trading goals back and forth, and it seemed like for the entirety of this game that the Roughnecks may have had the advantage, but that didn't really come to fruition up until the third quarter, and that was when the Roughnecks really started to pull away.
They were trading, but even in that first quarter, Dallas was able to get a couple breaks early on that when it may have seemed a little bit treacherous down the stretch there, they had solidified that cushion, and then you could see that gap widening a little bit with a really big third quarter. Dylan Freechild just, as excited as always. Jimmy Mickle always with that continue. The side bump from Chris Larberg, we can count on him for that.
How about the hammer throw finding Hayes in the back of the end zone, and then the Soul had some really flashy plays at the end of the half, and then of course the Roughnecks did end up having the advantage, 21-17, once again the final here from the Colony. But we are just getting started on the AUDL season opener, opening day. Next week, the Roughnecks are facing the Raleigh Flyers back here at home on April 9th in a Sunday afternoon game there for Dallas. The Raleigh Flyers having played the day before against this Austin Soul, and there's a lot of social media aspect with that too as well, Amy.
So we really hope that you come out here in person and really experience the game in person April 9th. But in the meantime, definitely follow along on our social media channels. So on our Facebook, on Twitter, at @Roughnecks. We even have an Instagram as well. So you can post your pictures, tag the Roughnecks in it, mention us in comments. We just love to see all of our fan support, and tell us why you like watching the Roughnecks. What player are you really looking forward to seeing this year and really being in that new spotlight as we're in this new season?
So with all of this being said, the Roughnecks are victorious once again, 18-0 as an organization, 1-0 on the young season. Austin falls to 0-1 with the 21-17 final. Thank you again for joining us here on Game On Sports Productions edition of Dallas Roughnecks Ultimate Frisbee. For all of those who helped pull off this production, our producer Fred Garner, for my partner here, Amy Fitzgerald, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Once again, the final from the Colony, 21-17 in favor of the Dallas Roughnecks. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.